Lee, coming to you Tuesday from the West Coast of San Francisco, from the West Coast of the United States in San Francisco, at close to noon. And I'm going to talk to you today about how to get people to listen. And you know, I have a 14-year-old. We spend a lot of time because she's very strong-willed, which I am thankful for most of the time, uh, really trying to get her to listen. And also, in many, many times from past workplace situations, I really want someone to do a certain thing or to act in a certain way. And I kind of just want to tell them to do that. And I really want them to listen to me. Maybe we don't agree on the product roadmap. Maybe we don't agree on the direction of the meeting. Maybe we don't agree on what the design feedback is supposed to be. So I wanted to share long-term strategies because a lot of it is about long-term trust building. And that is the very first one. Really build the long-term relationship. I think we know this. We all know this. But it's also really hard because life is fast, life is quick. We just want them to listen to this piece of feedback and make some changes right now. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. Part of building the long term relationship, and y'all know this, but it can be hard to do, is think about every single interaction you have with them. Think about how you can make it positive. The best way to build trust is for you to first share and be vulnerable, which can be really hard. And we're not diving deeper into that. But if you think about the long term relationship, it's about emphasizing partnership, shared goals, shared outcomes. What do you want that relationship to be? And then ultimately signaling to them, well, I care about you as a person. I care about what you want. I care about your desires. I care about your frustrations. And how do we do this together? So that's kind of long term. If that long term relationship is there, people are more likely to listen. But that's kind of long term. Let's say you've got something to share, something difficult, some feedback to give. Second tip is, how do you pick the right context? Really selecting the context for a more difficult conversation is really, really good. You don't want them to feel ambushed or hijacked. If they're busy and overwhelmed, you don't want to talk to them about it then because they're not likely to listen. So, really think about situationally, when is the recipient, the person you want to listen, when are they most likely going to be open to the message? Maybe it's when they're feeling good. Maybe it's when they're relaxed. Maybe it's after a really big win. You can think about what conditions makes them more likely to listen. Is it casually, maybe over lunch? Is it having a walk outdoors? Is it really asking them on Slack, "Hey, there's something that I wanna chat with you about. When's a good time for you?" And in a workplace setting, if there is, depending on the level of seriousness of what you want them to listen to hear, you may set up a more formal conversation, like a one-on-one type of conversation, and saying, "Hey, can we spend 10 minutes talking about this?" And then finally, and this is different, right? If you're the boss telling someone who works for you, you may have more of the power dynamic and the authority to simply tell them that. But I'm talking about maybe more of a peer scenario, or maybe a scenario where you have a lower power dynamic when you're talking to your boss. It I think it's important to ask for permission. So, really, hey, is it okay if I share something with you that's been bothering me, for example? Um, it's hard for someone to say no to that, especially if the power dynamic is weird, especially if they want to be polite. But you've got to ask them that level of permission, fully understanding and accepting that a no is okay. And if you get a no back, or just let them know, hey, it's okay to say no if it's not the right timing right now. If you can accept the no, you can always ask, "Hey, could we do this some other time? When's a good time for you?" Really helps with setting the right context. Or in some cases, maybe you need to hear the no, because maybe by tomorrow or the next day, the thing you really wanted them to listen to, maybe it's not important anymore. All right, so the more immediate tip is really picking this context for the difficult situation. Okay, and now here's the stuff that I really love, because it's actionable, short term right now. Remember we were talking about building the long-term relationship? I think it's really important, and we all know this, that like our ratio of positive to negative interactions should be there should be a lot more positive than negative interactions. I've seen studies which say 3 to 1, 3 pieces of positive to 1 piece of negative, and I've seen studies that say 7 to 1. I don't know which number you pick, but I would bet for you, as for me, as for most of us, it's more negative than positive. So, how do you set up these rhythms to create authentic, positive praise and reinforcement? And then, secondly, the tip that I love, 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 love the most is be specific. So, what does that mean? Um, if you're in a meeting and someone had a presentation, great job. Yeah, doesn't feel that authentic. Like if your boss kind of says, "Oh, you did a great job with that presentation." Yes, it is praise. Yes, it is positive. Doesn't necessarily feel that great, especially if you didn't think you did that good of a job. Instead, be specific and descriptive. So, for example, in that presentation, the way that you opened and set the context about XYZ was really good framing. When you shared that specific case study about blah, 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 that really brought the problem to life for me. It brought the customer pain point to life for me. Really, I saw how you wrapped up the meeting with actions and next steps. That worked really well. So the good thing is that it really is be specific, be descriptive about what is happening. Um, and I actually got the be descriptive from a kid's book, really. How to talk so kids will listen and how to listen so kids will talk, I think is it. And I've actually found this to be pretty invaluable because it's neutral, giving the descriptiveness, but what you're doing is you're calling out the things that stood out to you as really great, really praiseworthy. Okay, related to this, it's the same thing. It's around specificity and descriptiveness. If you've got something kind of constructive criticism-ish to give people, kind of that level of constructive criticism and feedback, also be really specific. Similar to the tip of being descriptive, it's stick to the facts. Stick to the facts that the other person would agree to with 100% accuracy. When you said in the meeting that you thought Joanne's idea was ridiculous and ill-conceived. Now, that is a fact that this person said Joanne's idea was ridiculous and ill-conceived. It made me feel whatever you feel. It made me feel that the atmosphere of our meeting was really toxic and made me feel that people could not speak up with new and creative ideas. So both of these things cannot be denied. It's the fact that so and so said this about Joanne to Joanne, and it's a fact that I am feeling this particular way. So that's the formula for how to be specific with feedback. And then finally, my last point, when you're trying to get people to listen, know what you want. Know what outcome you want. Know what you want to happen next. Is it simply that you wanted to unload this and get it off your chest and now you feel better? That's cool. But if there's an action that you want next, you can't really control other people's behavior. Well, you might be able to if you're their boss, but that's going to lead to long term resentment. I think it's better if you want a particular action, one, to know that you don't need to come up with the action plan in this meeting. Let the person sit with what you wanted them to hear. Maybe you come back the next day or the day after. And then if you want an action, it's got to be co created. It's got to be a combination of what you want and what they want and figuring that all out together. All right, this was a longer one today, but it's Tootie Tagerly talking about how to get people to listen long term. Think about building the long term relationship. If you've got a difficult conversation, pick the right situational context for it. And then my two quick things you could implement right now: give more praise to build the long term relationship and be very specific and descriptive. Don't just say, great job. Describe what they did and what you saw. Similarly, be specific with more negative, critical feedback. Describe the data, the facts that you can both agree on and how it made you feel. And finally, know what you want to happen next so you can ask for it and co create it together. That's it. We'll chat soon. Bye.